So with Blizzard's reveal of more information of what's coming in patch 11.0 for the Undermine, some data miners have found some class balance changes coming through as well. With these, Prot Warriors are getting a few changes, and it has some of the community crying Prot Warriors dead on arrival. And I want to talk about that for a little bit. Hi, my name's Welgo. I'm a Prot Warrior main since Wrath of Lich King, and I'm currently sitting at 2600 rating. I appreciate you stopping by and would love it if you considered subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. So before we talk about the community's response or my own response to these changes, let's see what these changes are. Blizzard states that warriors are currently flooded with rage, and it doesn't give a lot of variation to defensive uses as we're just dumping it all into ignore pain. So their fix is to adjust rage generation and try to encourage more decisive and meaningful uses of rage without reducing our ability to tank. To achieve it, here's what they're doing. They're reducing the chance to reset the cooldown of Shield Slam from either Devastator or Strategist by 10%, from 30 down to 20. Impenetrable Wall no longer increases rage generated by Shield Slam. Booming Voice causes Demoralizing Shout to only give us 20 rage instead of 30. Champion's Bulwark no longer increases the rage generated by Shield Charge. Blood Surge now causes damage from deep wounds to have a chance to generate 3 rage. Violent Outburst has been rebuilt to better understand how it works, as well as reduces the additional rage generated by Violent Outburst from 100% down to 50%. It seems the update to that to make it easier to understand is going to be that instead of spending 30 rage to get a stack of Seeing Red, and then getting Violent Outburst after 8 stacks of Seeing Red, you instead are going to have a countdown from spending 250 rage in order to get Violent Outburst. The difference between that is, I believe, 10 rage overall is being spent, so there's that. Shield Wall has had its cooldown reduced from 3.5 minutes to 3 minutes, and the amount of damage ignored from each use of Ignore Pain has been increased by 30%. So when these notes dropped, I just went straight to the Skyhold Discord and looked around on YouTube to see some of the creators I follow and hear their input on these changes. I saw a lot of comments initially in the Discord stating that Blizzard hates Prot Warriors, they can't wait for Prot Warrior to be relevant 3/4 of the way through Season 3. A lot of the concern was that the base reduction of rage generation, coupled with the reduction of the chance to reset Shield Slam, would mean that warriors will not have enough resources to use offensive or defensive abilities. That reducing the resources gained and by proxy the abilities that get cast, that warriors won't be able to keep up with mitigating damage as well as producing damage of their own. I said in my last video that with the tier set bonus alone that warriors will have a chance to be top tanks this season, and after all this, I still stand by those words. I still believe we're going to be in a good spot because even with these changes and reduction in rage generation, we'll still be able to hold our own and produce well enough to be a top tank. In speaking to survivability and defensive use, I think it's a good balance change on Blizzard to increase the amount of Ignore Pain you get per cast while reducing rage generation to avoid us constantly casting Ignore Pain. Doing the math on my warrior, I have a cap of about 3.2 million Ignore Pain possible. Each cast gives me currently around 725,000 towards that pool. Increasing that number by 30% allows me to fill up the bar in 2 less total casts than I would in the current situation. So while I'm not generating enough rage to spam Ignore Pain like I currently am, I'll still be able to cap out my Ignore Pain value in less casts, which lets me use more rotational abilities more frequently. Not to mention, if you're talented into Brutal Vitality, you're going to be stacking Ignore Pain through your damage, giving you 10% of your damage dealt as an Ignore Pain value, which feeding into the tier set bonus of being able to get Avatar based on if you're taking damage and the chance that comes with that, you're going to be dealing enough damage to keep that filled. Continuing on the focus on defensives, I think the changes to Shield Wall will help a lot with people's worries of defensive shortcomings. Reducing the cooldown by 30 seconds from 3.5 minutes to 3 minutes may not seem like a lot. However, if you're talented into Anger Management and Defender's Aegis, you'll have 2 charges of Shield Wall with a 2-minute cooldown that will be getting refreshed faster in the fight while you spend the rage that you have. With the addition of Luck of the Draw from the tier set granting Shield Wall for 4 seconds, it feels like warrior survivability will be increased despite the rage generation changes. Finally, the changes to Shield Slam. This one's been a hot topic in Skyhold discussions. While I know on paper reducing the chances to get additional Shield Slams will not work well with the tier set, in practice I don't think it will be all that noticeable. Given that the times when we will be casting Shield Slam, regardless if it's a reset or not, we'll have an increased crit strike chance from Luck of the Draw, and in my opinion will make up for the additional casts. Not to mention that those same crit strikes are reducing shield charge by 6 seconds. Now why does that matter? Well, not only is Shield Charge just a good ability to use for additional damage and a stun, but talenting into Champion's Bulwark gives you Shield Block, which increases the damage done by Shield Slam by 30% when active. So Shield Slam, while possibly getting less cast, is getting more passive buffs to it that will allow you to hit harder when you do cast it. So in the end, I don't think Warrior is going to be in a bad spot. I don't think it's going to be the D tier tank that people seem to think it's going to be with these changes. But I think these are going to do exactly what Blizzard intends, which is to balance it. Balancing the problem that Warriors are only casting Ignore Pain with how much rage they get and giving us more opportunities to still have the same effect without dumping into it, I feel is a good goal. I saw one person in the Skyhold Discord that I agree with, that it seems like the only thing that this is going to change is raising the skill cap for Prot Warriors in the season. We all know the skill cap for tanks naturally increased this season because of the changes that came with the War Within. Because of those changes to tanks, I personally feel like I've grown as a tank player. It's given me a lot more appreciation for the role and allowed me to see where I can improve on in my gameplay. And I'm inclined to agree that I feel these changes to Prot Warriors will do more or less the same in the sense of challenging their ability to adapt and grow up the class. Reducing the rage generation is going to force us to adjust our rotations and understand the new flow of when certain abilities will be able to be used and what goes into generating the right amount of rage that goes into it. I think with those changes, balancing each other out and pushing Prot Warriors to play better than we have played will ultimately put us up higher on the tier list for Season 2. But that's just my opinion, so I'd love to see what you think and see if I'm missing something or if I'm just talking out my ass. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe to see more like this in the future. But until next time, my name is Welgo, and remember, patch notes are temporary, but rage building is forever. See ya.